All right, what's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Big Bubba Brad coming at you with the post-game live show here on the Voice of College Football, by the Country Roads webcast. I've got the man himself, Mr. Paul, the Mountaineer Paul. Big win, I'll say probably a career-saving win for Neil Brown going into Blacksburg, coming out probably one of the uglier games I've seen in a while, but a win is a win. I'll take it. Walking out of there singing Country Roads. So how you feel right now? What was your initial reaction? Tell me kind of how you felt about the game.
Ugly first half. The second half was a lot more smooth as far as West Virginia is concerned. I got to give credit to Jordan Leslie in the room there that all this schemed up that defensive secondary in the second half. They really pulled things together, put Jacoby Spells in, and I don't think that's a fluke that things went better once he went into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say an amazing first play for the young man, getting his, first real look at in-game action against a big opponent. Was our number one recruit out of high school last year. Had a big pedigree from American Heritage Plantation down there in Florida. Super excited for him. And, I mean, it's definitely a statement to come out, first big play. He had 3 plays in that game that I could think of. First play, he gets beat. Turns around, comes back, has a great coverage play. You see him, and he's taking it pick 6 to the house, and it was a good read, good jump on the ball. Really exciting future for that man in the Mountaineer uniform.
Agreed. And, we still don't have an indication on Charles Woods. We know he had a surgery, but it seems like it was a minor surgery, and we've never gotten that out for the season yet. Hopefully it's something that can be cleaned up within 2 to 4 weeks, and who knows what the back end can look like towards the end of the year. It's at least something I dream about. But for now, Jacoby Spells coming in, playing like he did. It's a good shot in the arm for the defense. The defensive line absolutely dominated this game up front. We really won both sides of the ball. And in an ugly game, if you've got that, you've got a good chance to win the football game. That's why they call them the Big Uglies.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's one of those things where our offensive line and defensive line really just showed their dominance, especially the offensive line today. So they looked absolutely stellar. But let's focus on the defensive side real quick. Going into this game, I'll say I really thought that the Mountaineer defense had not. Going into this game, I didn't think that our backside was probably going to be looking any better than what we've seen so far. So I expected a little bit higher scoring game. They come out, they look rough in the first half. Mustin McCormick still is kind of getting beat. That play where, the only touchdown Virginia Tech scored, I don't know where he was looking. It's like he lost the wide receiver and lost the ball. And at that point in time, he might as well ran to the locker room. Hate that. I really hate that. Had a lot of potential going into the season. But for the past 2 weeks, I've just been preaching that I wanted to see Jacoby Spells. I wanted to see him. He was a high-rated recruit for a reason. He needed to see the field, and I think we saw why today. So, other than that, though, like you said, defensive line really just jumped out at you. Jordan Jefferson, that looks like an absolute dude there in the middle.
Agreed. He's put a string together, and you hear the coaches talking about stacking performances all the time. He's put together a stack of performances that Chris Neal, maybe in the middle, the last guy I can remember to put a stack of games together like this. Part of that 2010 defense that was so good. But before I go further, I made a promise to somebody, and I hope this is okay. I want to shout out a man named Donnie Evans. He helped me get my life turned around at a certain point. I just wanted to shout him out. I told him I would. He's a great dude, and he really helped me turn my life around. But back to the defense. The only thing I really want to gripe about is the lack of a pass rush. I tweeted out earlier, James Hurd Jr. can't get here fast enough because we need somebody in that bandit spot that can be consistent. Torres Simmons, not been consistent. Jared Bartlett, not been consistent. And I just wish anybody would step into that bandit spot and give us some production. That would really alleviate so much pain in our back end. We've got one of those defensive lines that are run stuffers. Reminds me of the 3-4 Pittsburgh Steelers. They have linebackers that come off the edge, but Casey Hampton, those guys in the middle, they all stuff the run all the time. They never really rush the passer, and that's kind of like what we have right here. Just disappointing, but overall, obviously a good performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, another man, from good old close to my hometown down here in the South, but Sean Martin had another good game. I think so.
Absolutely.
He seems to really be earning that starting spot. And on the other end of that, I think Taj Austin has responded really well. I was worried with Sean Martin getting the start last week, turns around, gets a start again this week. And, Taj Austin could have thrown his hands up and gave in, and he didn't. He turned around. He got one of the few sacks that we got tonight. He really played well again, showed his dedication and his commitment to the team. And so, I think that that's only going to be a positive going forward. We're really getting some significant depth there. The D-line, Mike Lockhart filling in for Jordan Jefferson. It's like he didn't miss a beat. That guy is huge. He just takes up, he was very instrumental in stopping the run when we were, Virginia Tech was wanting to go up tempo. They were not giving us a chance to really swap anybody out. They wanted to try to wear us out and, do what they enforce their will on us. And we just didn't allow that to happen,
Key play of the game, he got his paw on a ball. That was a key play of the game when he tipped that pass.
Oh, absolutely. And then to keep on the defense, let's say you turn around, I think that the linebackers have been one of the weaker spots so far in the beginning of this season. And, we really turned it around today. Luke Pogue looked a lot better. Lance Dixon and them were flying all over. They looked significantly better this game, and I think that they were a big part of it, especially Luke Pogue. But, he had a lot of hype coming into the season. Hasn't necessarily lived up to that hype. He has been there, but he hasn't necessarily been making the right reads. But he really stepped up today, and he really, laid some hits in there and got some big stops there that we needed. Especially on those like third down and shorts, fourth and shorts, and they're going for it. Luke Pogue was there every single time, it seemed like.
And his issues have not been physical in nature. They're all upstairs. It's all getting acclimated to a new defense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really all of our players as far as the back end, including the linebackers. I think it's more of a mental deal than it is physical, because what did we hear all summer long was how physically gifted this team is on the back end, and you heard it in the broadcast. I mean, that's all they talked about was how many dudes we have on defense. They were counting off the 4-star guys and even a 5-star guy. Not that stars matter 100% of the time, but we've got guys with elite athletic ability in the back end and on the line in the linebacker spots. And if they can just put it together from a mental and physical perspective, I do think we can have a really good defense. It's just, when is it going to click? Because when we get to start playing some of the higher caliber offensive teams starting next week, we're really going to find out what we're about. And what really worries me about it is I think we can score with anybody, but we're not as remember when Will Greer was here, how quick strike of an offense we were. It seems like we're more of a possession ball team now. We first down. We hit big plays every now and then, but as far as just score, it's more of drawing out drives, 10, 12 plays. And I don't know if we get to a true shootout with somebody how to perform in that.
Yeah, and I just want to say real quick, I don't know if something's happened with your mic. It sounds like it's swapped up a little bit. So it's not sounding as what it was when you first started. It sounds kind of distant. Yeah, we're definitely seeing a completely different brand of offense under Graham Harrell. I think going into the season, if you would have told people that we picked up JT Daniels and Graham Harrell and, that Bryce Ford Wheaton would be looking as good as he has, that we would be averaging – well over 100 yards rushing a game. We've now hit 200 yards. I think we got close to 200 tonight. Probably didn't hit that mark. I know CJ Donaldson did. I think Justin Johnson probably got in the 50s, 60s. Tony Mathis probably also hit in that 40s range. We're really, really running the ball incredibly well. And JT Daniels is just letting it happen. On that note, I thought JT Daniels looked a little off tonight.
Throwing into the wind. The wind was whipping around. I think they said 15 miles an hour there tonight. I think depending on which side of the field you were heading towards, really was dependent on how the ball flight was and the wind. And I think the wind had something to do with that. The throw to Mike O was a little off. There was a throw to Sam James in the first half that was a little behind. I really do think it was the wind, because I can count on one hand how many true throws that he's been on the year so far. So I don't think all of a sudden he just was. I mean, he can have a bad day, of course, but I really do think it was a lot to do with the wind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's one of those things where it's not necessarily that I thought JT Daniels played a bad game, but it's for the first time where I thought JT Daniels looked human. And, he was kind of missing. He missed Bryce for Wheaton on like a wide open play in the middle of the field. He was throwing balls a little bit farther behind. Him and Caden Prather had a little bit of a mixed up timing. But Caden Prather really showed out the first half, came in clutch there in the second quarter. Really kind of disappeared later on in the game. He didn't have as big as a game as I thought he was going to have. But I think that's because our running game just really became dominant. I mean, we were running – it felt like the same couple plays, over and over again, and just Virginia Tech had no response for it. And that was just, the big hog mollies up front, just really, really imposing their will. Which, I thought something interesting that I noticed with the up front line is that we started with Jordan White. Jordan White started the game. And I thought we looked really, really good with Jordan White in the game. And then somewhere middle of the game, later in the game, we switched Doug Nestor back to right guard, moved Jaquay Hubbard and Brandon Yates back out to right tackle. And I thought that we struggled more with that combination. I definitely didn't see us getting as much push. They were definitely getting more pressure on our quarterback with that. And so I'm just curious if maybe Jordan White's not back up to full speed like we thought we were.
That's a really good question. I thought the same thing. Obviously, no matter how it shakes out, Doug Nestor's probably our best right guard and our best right tackle. But who can we get into the left guard or right tackle spot that benefits us most? And it's really been a juggling act. Thank goodness we have 7 or 8 guys that we trust. But I agree with you 100%. Jaquay Hubbard obviously is a devastating run blocker. Struggles in the pass game. He gets a little topsy-turvy up top. He gets off balance. So it's really hard to say. I'm not exactly sure why that happened. I didn't see a reason for it. We were moving the ball all the night. So it's got to be something the coaches know about, and I'm sure we'll find out in the press conference. Hopefully they get asked about it and find out.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be more questions asked about that O-line and exactly what's going on with that, for sure. Other than that, I thought other standout players on the offense, Michael Laughlin probably had the game of his career so far in the Mountaineer uniform. He missed one in the end zone. That was a tough catch to make, kind of, quick ball, low to your right shoulder, outside shoulder. Try to make a play on it. Just dropped it, man. It happens. It sucks, but, that's some points the Mountaineers left on the field, which seemed to be a little bit of a theme tonight. We really had to heavily rely on Casey Legg. The leg put in work tonight, man. He had 12 points out of over 33, really did his job, came out there and looked super consistent. I can't say that I wasn't worried about some of those kicks because Casey Legg has historically struggled, not necessarily from the distances he was kicking from, but, a little bit longer 30s, early 40s. Casey Legg has definitely struggled. So, he's had that tendency, but came in tonight and put the ball through the uprights, and that's what we needed.
And sticking on special teams, kicked a million back into the end zone. They had virtually no chance to return kicks tonight, which really both kickers Virginia Tech's kickers as well. But I really thought Parker Brothos, I'll give Graham credit. He talked about that Saudi a lot, and it has shown up for us because our kickoff last year, as far as flipping the field, they skip it on their side or the negative side of the field was terrible. So I'm really glad that that's something that's changed.
Yeah. And, just to bring it up, your mic still has not corrected itself. I don't know if you want to give it a little unplug, plug back in, maybe hop out of the stream and I'll bring you back on because it's getting a little harder to hear you. Yeah, we'll give Paul a second to kind of jump out, jump back in. We'll take a minute to check in with the comments, get some of you guys. We got a lot of people in here. Appreciate you guys in here. Candyman 2055. The Mountain Layer with Kenny. Love that. W Mountain Layer with Kenny. John Kelly in here. Thanks, you guys. I will be getting to your comments and stuff. Eric Cruz popping in. Love that. Hopefully we'll get the rest of the Country Roads webcast crew on here. Jordan and Steven are both at the game. They let me know that their service was not that great. So they said they're going to try to hop in here, but no promises. If not, you're stuck with mine and ugly mugs. Talk a little bit more.
How does that sound? Is that any better?
Yeah, that seemed to have fixed it.
Okay. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, but yeah, we were talking about special teams here. Yeah, Parker Grotehouse. I definitely noticed. It kind of makes you wonder what has happened with the kickoff so far. I've never been a kicker in my life. I could hardly use my legs as it is. Um, you know, but he was putting them. He was putting them out the back of the end zone today. I mean, he was not giving them a chance.
No.
And the one he left kind of short almost rolled in our favor. Yeah, almost two of them, honestly. The two of them he left short because, he had one dink off a pylon, which, the guy let it roll. And, hey, if that bad boy doesn't touch, then, it's not ball. That was a funky one. I've never seen that before. It's the first time in all my years of watching football I've seen a guy let one trickle towards the pylon. Hey, yeah, special teams looked okay, except for, Reese Smith has dropped another punt. I don't expect to see him filled anymore.
I don't either. Actually, I'd like to see Jeremiah Aaron get a shot. And it's funny, even though we haven't seen a whole lot of them, I really think there's a lot of potential out of that second group in the wide receiver room. Man, they're dudes. Jeremiah Aaron looked fast tonight. I really hope to see him get a few more balls thrown his way, but it was a competitive game. I think JT just went to who he trusted the most, and that's understandable. I don't know how much developing, if we keep staying in tight ball games in the fourth quarter, how much our second unit's going to get developed, because it seems like our coaches really trust four guys and then Mike O. Another thing, have you really been unimpressed with Brian Palende? Really he was brought in as supposed to be a blocking extraordinaire at tight end. All I've seen was getting blown up tonight.
Yeah, it's happened consistently. It's one of those things where you just, probably wasn't as advertised. Don't know if it's a new system or what's going on, but you would think realistically as a tight end, down blocking, out blocking, getting a push should be fairly universal. But yeah, definitely have not gotten as much out of Brian Palende as I thought we would have coming into the season. But on punt return, I think that I would like to see, and I know Jordan has echoed this before, I would like to see Preston Fox. The guy that they've said can catch any ball come his way. I think Preston Fox, and I think that he's earned that shot. Honestly, I mean, the guy has come out every time we've seen him, he's looked good. Why not reward him with letting him get a little bit of a start on punt returns? And to that note, how funky was it? I don't know. I'm sure most of you guys were watching on TV, but for those that you weren't, them talking about the corrective lenses.
That was wild.
Stop the player. I have never heard of that before. Is that legal? I didn't know that was legal. That sounds like a little bit of, performance enhancing equipment, can you give your offensive lineman bionic knees? Maybe.
Wouldn't that suck? Neil Brown has to vacate his 2 wins.
Yeah, because they're playing corrective lenses, and that's just, that was absolutely something I have never heard of. I thought that was super interesting. On the other side, though, kudos to Virginia Tech for their special teams. I know that's what they're known for, but that punter, you couldn't have walked up there and placed balls better. I mean, it was beautiful to watch as a football fan, just watching him put that ball anywhere and everywhere he wanted to and really making us work for everything that we had.
They've had specialists going back 30 years, that they're always good there. I think it's something that by now it's so established that recruits that are good in those areas want to go to Virginia Tech because, the special teams get a little extra TLC there. Which we've heard Neil Brown talk about that. And I think it's paid off for us this year. Our special teams are at least adequate now, as to where they were absolutely terrible last year in every phase.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now that we've kind of touched all 3 phases of the game, I'm going to try to get some of these comments out here, see what we got going on. We'll start out here with I'm just going to jump into a random spot with W Mountain Layer with Kenny. He said, I hope that the second half continues over to the Texas game. If we don't get a lead early, we are in trouble. I would like to hope that this builds some momentum. I definitely think it's more of a momentum-building game than what you get against Towson. Going into what seems to be a scary Texas team. How does this game – I know it's a little bit early to be talking about next week, but this is one of our first comments. How does this affect your feelings going into Texas at all right now, immediately following the game?
how we played in the second half. I still say that Texas will be favored in the game. Obviously, it's in Austin, correct?
Yeah, it's at DKR. Yeah.
So I'm looking for probably 6-7. We'll be getting, but I like our chances in the game. I think they rose up for the Alabama game, yes, but as we've seen before, Texas can be fool's gold. They've had wins before that were really good, and they still, until they pan out to be a top Big 12 team, I'm not going to believe it. And we've beaten them more than they've beaten us. So until that happens, I'm not going to believe it. Now, they have had some amazing transfers. I'm not going to lie. Xavier Worthy's probably one of the best wideouts in college football. But other than that, I mean, I really do think we've got a puncher's chance for sure in this game. It all really depends on how our back end performs. Once again, it's going to be on them every week. If they play at a consistent level, we're going to have a shot to win almost every game we play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, my realistic take going into it is that I love this win. I love beating Virginia Tech any day of the week. I'm personally still not going to put too much stock into this win. I think that we were carried a little bit and bailed out a lot by a team under their first-year head coach and getting a lot of penalties. That's the most penalties in a college football game, they said, since 2012, quite a while. I'm not trying to find those excuses, but I'll be honest, we had a few fourth downs. I think they said we had 7 or 8 first downs due solely to penalties. And, that's really a momentum killer for any team. And I think that it kind of kept us in this game. So I'm not going to say I'm convinced yet that we've absolutely got this turned around because of that solely. But I definitely think that morale boosting, it doesn't matter how you win, getting a win is still morale boosting. And I think that this team needs that crucially at this moment.
Yeah, the locker room has to be it's got to be a 180 from the first 2 games of the season. And some of the plays we weren't making in the first 2 games, we've been making in the last 2 weeks. I was talking to a couple of people there on Twitter that I'm all for focusing on the negative. But if there are 10 math problems on the board and 9 are right and 1 is wrong, it's okay to focus on the 9 that are right sometimes and not the 1 that's wrong. It's all about the outlook, and I for this week, I'm just going to be positive. I'm going to try to be positive. I have my worries. If you're a true Mountaineer fan, you know what they are. But, I mean, the offensive line really took a step forward tonight. I'm really excited about how they played. Zach Frazier was absolutely bulldozing people tonight. There's so many shout-outs to give on the offensive line tonight. It's just got to go as a group. I think the entire group just played so well tonight against Virginia Tech does have a good defense. If they had any kind of offense to pair with that defense, they'd be a good football team. So I really do believe they have a good defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, their defensive line was top notch. They really were. Yeah. They were highly touted going into this. Had been holding teams. Granted, Virginia Tech has not played that much of a quality opponent. We're probably the best opponent that they've played so far. But they still kind of kept our offense. They had some great red zone defense. I think we scored once out of the 4 times that we actually hit the red zone. So
the back end of their secondary is good.
Yeah, they definitely played up. But our offensive line definitely carried us in that game. All right, got Mountain Layer Kenny here again. Sorry to bounce onto another one. I just wanted to bring this one up specifically for he says his and Silas's prediction was pretty close. I brought this up because Jordan Cruz sent me a message just to make sure that I included this here. He said, if this sends, he said, I picked 34-17 on the pod and that we'd get a pick 6. Just saying. And so I wanted to make sure, Jordan got a shout out. He was pretty close. I had Virginia Tech scoring a little bit more points, but I was pretty spot on where we were at. So I just wanted to give him a shout out to that. Let's go down here to Grant Wiley, Esquire. Thanks for joining in again, Grant Wiley. Like having you here. Always appreciate you being around. He said, I'm really liking the Donaldson Johnson Jr. combo. This rushing attack has been the biggest surprise of our team. I think without a doubt, Justin Johnson has cemented himself as RB2. Tony Mathis, unfortunate fumble today, but there's got to be consequences for mishaps, unfortunately. And hate it for him. I was really excited for him coming in, but I think at this moment, I think Justin Johnson has just seemed a little bit more zippy and a little bit more dedicated in getting those yards. How'd you feel about this? How'd you feel about Justin Johnson? Maybe Tony Mathis. Obviously, CJ looked great, but
I'm a huge Justin Johnson fan. You can't argue with pedigree, and his pedigree is good. 4-star guy coming out of high school, and it really showed up on the field. He's fast. He's a lot faster than I remembered seeing him be last year, and that's when the coaches started. They hear him talk about once it clicks mentally how much faster guys can play on the field. I think that's happened for him. Obviously, C.J. Donaldson. If you haven't seen it on this channel and on my channel, I did an interview with his head coach at Gulliver Prep, Coach Earl Sims. Got some really good insight on C.J. Donaldson and Travius Lathan. We talked for about 35 minutes. So I've got that video on this channel and on the Mountaineer Paul Talks Football channel as well. So some really good insight on those players if those are players you're interested in. But I want to throw out a third guy that I wish we could see more of is Marquand Rucker. I'm a big fan of his. I really loved him in the spring game. I would love to see more of him. I know that's probably not going to happen. Our running back room is so deep, but I can hope.
Yeah, because you could even argue for trying to see Jalen Anderson too. Right there was right behind Justin Johnson in the recruiting. It's just definitely looking great in that area. Got Golden Blue Dude in here. Always thanks for joining in, Golden Blue Dude. Love you lots. Virginia Tech is straight doo-doo. Yeah, they definitely did not look great. I got him in here again. I get his next one. This is Jacoby Spells showing why he was a 4-star recruit, and that was a big win in recruiting for West Virginia. Absolutely, man. And I think that this kind of shows, the class of 2022 has been showing out.
100%. And I mean, and really players we weren't expecting. I mean, I don't think anybody saw C.J. Donaldson coming. Is my microphone messing up again?
I was making sure that mine wasn't picking up any feedback in the back. Sorry.
Okay. I mean, I don't think anybody saw CJ coming. Obviously, Jacoby Spells, we probably thought with all the transfers was going to be somebody that played here and there in 4 games and then got a red shirt. It's not looking like that anymore. And just as savvy, I'm telling you, I mean, it's just a simple break on a route that he made there on a post, but it doesn't happen with freshmen. The game's moving fast. They're just trying to figure out who their guy is. For him to break on that ball and pick it off like that was really impressive. And I only expect him to get better. I mean, if anything, they say ignorance is a good thing on the football field when you're just playing with confidence. Hopefully that's possibly something that he goes forward with.
Yeah, and I mean, you could even argue that, this is the only interception so far that we've had this year.
The only one.
And it came with the hands of a true freshman, That's impressive.
It's not very good either, is it?
No, but I mean, it bodes well. It's one of those things where I tweeted out, that it's better. I would rather see a freshman struggle, grow, and learn than a senior struggle and not make that change. Let's see here. I had another one, good one. We got Thomas Highlander here, and he said Graham called a great game tonight. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can only think of 1 or 2 plays that the couch potato, could question. Graham Harrell was obviously an elite offensive play caller. I saw some people hypothesizing maybe that Neil Brown was taking over in the red zone tonight. I don't think. I watched pretty closely. He and Graham are in constant communication. So I think, but I do think that he was making the calls. I don't think it was Neil Brown. But I really thought overall, obviously had a great performance tonight. 33 points against a Power 5 team is good, with 1 defensive score. But overall, I mean, they were off balance all night, the running game. And then the scheme that Matt Moore came up with the offensive line, I would like to give a shout out to as well. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I personally think that Graham Harrell called a hell of a game. I think it was a gem. even when JT Daniels was missing open wide receivers, they were there. I mean, the scheme was beating them. Virginia Tech just didn't seem to have an answer sometimes. And it looks great. And along with this, I kind of want to bring up so we got into a very similar situation, a 4th and 1, opposing side of the field, up by 6 points, a 1-possession game. We go for it. We're lining up to go for it, which first off, we didn't do that against Pitt. Turn around, lose 5 yards, jumping off sides, really inopportune time to have a penalty. We've talked about it. Coaches have talked about it. Not only are we getting penalized, but we're getting penalties at the worst time. We turn around and we go for it, 4th and 6. And I swear at one point in time, I'll go back and look at the game. But when they're talking about this, I think Neil Brown's going to go talk to the refs when the offsides happen. And I swear I see him saying to the microphone, go for it. I swear I see it. I think he was telling Graham Harrell, like, go for it. And I think that, because part of me was wondering whose call was that? Because I think that it was Neil Brown's call to not go for it against Pitt. I demanded after that game that Neil Brown really step back and stop making those decisions, because I think that Graham Harrell goes for it 10 times out of 10. And going into this, I would imagine Graham Harrell would go for it again. And I imagine Graham Harrell was the one to make that call until I swear I saw Neil Brown say, go for it. He said it, let them go with it, and we capitalized on it. I mean, we made that conversion, and I still don't – I think that's the drive where Michael Laughlin drops the touchdown in the end zone, but we still extend that drive. We still get 3 points out of it. We still waste time, take up effort, keep the defense on the field. Even if it's not a touchdown, it's still positive. And so that's one of those things that it definitely shows that Neil Brown's thinking about. It's a show me, man. Your feet is on fire. This was an absolute must need win. So I just wanted to bring up that scenario because I did think that it was kind of fitting to run into that again.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with all of it. If you're going to criticize him for not going for, give him credit when he does.
Absolutely. I absolutely do, because, I was very critical of him for not going for it. I'm on that team that he should have gone for it, and I stand by that decision 100 times out of 100. And, I'm glad to see him, I don't think it's been a detriment yet where he's, just gone for it just to shut the fans up. But I think this is one of those cases where, I think I still agree. 4th and 6, I didn't know if they should go for it. I started to question it at that point in time because, you're up by a touchdown. It is ballsy to go for it on 4th and 6.
They bailed us out on the 4th and 6, with the roughing the passer call, which was most definitely roughing by today's standards.
Yeah, maybe that's what.
But honestly, I think it was the savvy of JT Daniels who saw a defender with his back to him, and he just threw it up and let, I think it was Bryce or KP, come back to the ball. And those are really, you put the DB in a really precarious spot when you do that, because you throw a ball, it's short, the receiver has to come back for it. The DB doesn't know that it's short. There's contact. A lot of times you get calls that way too, and I think that's what JT Daniels was trying to do because he saw the play was pretty much broken. But I give all the coaches, especially Coach Neil Brown, credit for going for it on the 4th down. I don't know if he listens to the fans, but I do think he heard the noise.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where you can't ignore it.
No.
Again, he's not taking advice from us, but I think that he knows had he not gone for that, he was going to catch some way more flag. Did
you see the Josh Pate video? Did you see any of that? Late kid Josh Pate?
Yeah, I do.
He's pretty plugged in guy, especially 24/7 Sports. And I had tweeted out earlier, but there's a video out here from yesterday's episode. He said he had heard from within the program, or at least somebody close to the program, that Neil Brown was on quoting his words, on thin ice with hot roller skates, and that if he lost tonight, that he wasn't so sure that he would see the end of the year. So those 4th down calls, when you look at it from that perspective, are even more big, and Josh Pate's not a guy that's going to throw that out there without some credence to it. So
yeah, and I believe because my girlfriend was watching the game back at home, so she's back in West Virginia right now. I'm still in North Carolina. for a couple of days. Or she's there for a couple of days, and she's watching the game. And I think it was the holding call on the punt where, we muffed a punt. Del Negro got in there. He did what he does, got a hand on it. Also, Del Negro, that guy is insane. I don't know how he doesn't get a concussion every game, but that guy runs in there with reckless abandon and just tears shit up. Like it's fun to watch. Like I could watch that all year because he just runs in there and just dares people to stand in his way. And they try to. I give him credit. They try. But Neil Brown got fired up after that holding call. And, in the grand scheme of things, not the most detrimental penalty. They didn't get a first down out of it. Still our possession. We don't get as good to a field position, but still not the worst. And she was like, why was Neil Brown so animated? And I was like, probably because he knows that if he loses this game, he's probably losing his job. And it's realistically where it was. I was like, and he's trying to get every edge he can because if he doesn't fight for it, then he's not fighting for his job. He's got to claw tooth and nail for everything he can get right now to try to convince the fans that, that he deserves to stay here.
I'm happy for him because, I think all of us want to like Neil Brown. We know he's such a great culture fit. He understands what it's like to be from Appalachia, being from Kentucky himself. And I don't know how many Mountaineers out there are that don't want him to succeed. Even if we question some of his calls or some of the things he does from time to time, he's such a good fit for us that I would really love him to start succeeding and do some of those things we saw him do at Troy. And he's won big games before with lesser talent. So I'll continue to put my faith in him from week to week. We don't have much choice. And I really do think that moving forward, who knows where we'll be by the end of the season. It's not going to be the first time a team's lost 2 games and rattled 10 off.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, I'm trying to catch up here because I've kind of, tended towards the top of these comments. I'm going to dive in here a little bit. We got Silas in here. I always love to have you in here, Silas. He said, that touchdown to James was nice. Absolute game changer. Of course, I'm going to bring this one up because, we were on Twitter. Follow us both on Twitter. I'm Big Bubba Brad at CRW, and we got Mountaineer Paul. Definitely some fun guys to watch on Twitter. But I had tweeted out how Caden Prather – I said Caden Prather was going to have a breakout game. Disappeared. He had 4 receptions in a row, it felt like, and then just was gone for a quarter. And you tweeted out, at least he's not like Sam James and never shows up. And then next thing you know, Caden Prather makes 2 catches in the second quarter to keep us alive. And that drive is finished off when Caden Prather comes off the field for a break. Sam James comes in, has 1 catch, and it's a touchdown. And it was a good one too. And it was right there on it. I'm glad to see him still getting touchdowns. But yeah, it definitely was a huge momentum shift, and definitely the best pass of the night, I would say. You might count some of the ones of Michael Laughlin, but definitely up there.
Yeah, right down the seam. And that's another part of the game where Graham Hill really schemed open a receiver, having Sam James line up on the linebacker in the seam. It's a mismatch.
Yeah, it really is. I say, and he's got so much potential. I say, he just sometimes he just has a hard time getting him out there. I wanted to bring up HR Pickens stuff. Love the name. Love the icon here. He said Bryce Ford Wheaton needs to learn to stay off the sidelines. He was getting forced to too close to the sidelines, and they shut him out. Needs more of the middle routes. I agree. Bryce Ford Wheaton kind of didn't show up tonight. But that being said, they focused him. On one of those Michael Laughlin catches that we brought up a couple of times that allowed him to shine was Bryce Ford Wheaton getting, at one point in time in that play specifically that I can think of, they had 3 guys covering BFW. And, that was 2 cornerbacks on him, and then a linebacker drifted over to cover him too. And that freed up Michael Laughlin. And so, I know Bryce Ford Wheaton didn't show up in the stats. He was targeted, didn't get to really catch him. I blame a little bit of the inaccuracy of JT Daniels for that. But to me, I think Bryce Ford Wheaton just being on the field makes an impact.
Yeah, and there was a play where Bryce Ford actually broke his ankles, and JT didn't see him. They talked about him in the coverage of the game. He went somewhere else with the ball. So there was a play where Bryce Ford Wheaton would have scored, but he didn't see him. But I do agree. It's pick your poison with the over the middle stuff because you can really get somebody hurt doing that. But also, it's something he's really good at. So how do you keep him from being injured, and how do you send him over the middle at the same time? Well, you do it when they're not expecting it. And I do agree with what you were saying. The reason the other guys had big games, obviously, is because they were over-the-top safety help for Bryce Ford Wheaton. So the right slant that probably connected 5-6 times tonight to Caden Prather was open because that safety is shading towards that side of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that play you mentioned, credit to Bryce Ford Wheaton, the best play he made tonight probably was breaking up that interception when they went back to him the play after that. But I just want to note how incredible it was that JT Daniels picked up on that, I don't think Graham Harrell's in his ear. I don't think he has an earpiece. I'm pretty sure that that's not how we run that. But to know, we just called the exact same play again. He has it. Well, not the exact same play necessarily, the same route. He must have saw something I didn't and just trusted it. And JT Daniels, without doubt, turned around and slung it right to Bryce Ford Wheaton, And it wasn't great. It was almost a pick, but he just trusted it. He trusted his offensive coordinator and was like, "You saw something I didn't. Let's throw it. Like you ran this again for a reason. Let's try it."
Yeah.
All right. Let's get got Tony Kidd in here. What's up, Tony? Did we get a pump block tonight? I don't know if you necessarily counted the block. Definitely affected.
Yeah, it was a tip.
Yeah, an altered punt. Definitely got it in there. Got HR picking stuff again in here. JT Daniels has played in Texas, at Texas in 2018 as an 18-year-old, and I think he threw for 322 yards. Definitely a positive. A high schooler walking into Texas and being able to put up anything.
Yeah, because didn't he reclassify for the 2018 year? He was supposed to be a senior in high school for that.
Yeah, he won Gatorade Player of the Year as a junior and decided that was enough. And gosh, you got some more Texas stuff in here. People are really looking forward to that Texas game. We might be catching Texas at the right time. Ewers is still banged up. Our rush defense might be good enough to slow down Robinson. JT is a dog. Might will us to a W. Let's go. Thanks for being in here, DVC Highlights. Appreciate you. But yeah, so we're definitely trending in the right direction. Like I said, not putting too much stock into the Virginia Tech win. But, like Paul said, I think that we definitely got a fighting chance. I think that we're definitely in there hanging with it.
100% agree. I'm trying to remember, what did Bijan do against Texas or against Alabama? You might remember. I mean, they only scored 19 points, so, he couldn't have done much. Texas offensive line is definitely going to be a step up for our defensive line compared to this week to next week. But I do have faith in our defensive line to come to the call and play well. And if our linebackers can fit, I think we've got a really good chance. There's a Hudson Card they've got playing instead of him now, instead of Quinn Ewers. So, personally, I would rather see Quinn Ewers. I know that sounds weird, but I thought Hudson Card played better than Quinn Ewers when Quinn Ewers was in the game. He's just not 100% acclimated to the college game yet. So I'd like to catch Quinn Ewers early in his career, in my opinion. Now he's going to be really good going down the line, but
yeah, I disagree a little bit. I thought Quinn Ewers looked terrifying. I think that he was putting balls, and I think that he was making throws that I couldn't imagine a freshman. Granted, he's not necessarily a freshman, sat out a year last year from Ohio State, took all their money and ran. But, I thought Quinn Ewers looked terrifying. I thought Texas looked like they had a real chance to beat Alabama by 3 touchdowns had Quinn Ewers not left that game. Interesting.
I don't know. Maybe it's just something about how he looks. He doesn't even look like he should be a football player. He just looks weird. And then the way his ball comes out, obviously it spins. He can spin it, but he has no mobility, or at least that I haven't seen. Does he have mobility?
I don't know. I have not watched him all that much, except for that little bit in Alabama, and he was just slinging it like a true.
He's like a Brett Favre in a sense, the way he slings it around. But we'll see. So he's definitely out for the game. So I guess we'll see what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Gregory Krug in here. I want to pull this one up. If WVU goes 6-6, we should cherish it, own it, and look forward to winning a bowl game. How you feel about that, Paul?
I think it's a realistic way of looking at things. Our schedule is really, really tough the rest of the way out. If you're looking at the schedule objectively, you might be able to pick out 3 wins there, maybe 4, depending on how we play against Kansas State, Texas Tech, Iowa State, and probably Texas will be our most next winnable game. Baylor, even though they looked human against BYU, that was in Provo. That's a tough game. They really out-physicaled us last year. I'll be interested to see how we play there too. But
Baylor is coming into Morgantown. They have not won there yet.
Never won in Morgantown. So I don't know. I feel like we can win more than 6, but 6 is a realistic way to look at it.
Does Neil Brown keep his job at 6-6?
Yes, I think he would.
I don't know, man. It's tough. I think it really depends on gameplay. I think that if, we're consistent, I will admit that I didn't see nearly as many coaching mistakes tonight. There's still some, people want to bring up, undisciplined play still that you're seeing. I saw a lot less of it tonight from our veterans.
Right.
Other than James Committer jumping off sides on a 4th and 1, just trying to get the jump on a quarterback sneak. All of our penalties, our defensive pass interferences were, young guys getting beat and stuff. You got to deal with it. But, was it Mallinger?
Yeah.
Who got the first PI interference in the game. But he saved the touchdown. Honestly, realistically, him holding probably saved the touchdown.
Yeah. Then we had another one.
Took the 15 yards.
Then we had another one. Was it Marcus Floyd that held on the receiver's arm? He got beat over the top and towards the left front pylon.
Yeah.
So
so I think that, for me, 6-6 can be fine, but it's got to be a good 6-6. I think, coming into this year on our pod, I had talked about the fact that, to me, it's not as much about wins and losses as much as it is how we look in those wins and losses. If we're losing because we lost to a better team, I'll accept that. But if we're losing because we're beating ourselves, I won't accept that. And your 4th year as a head coach, that's not how you should be losing games.
That's a really good way to sum it up. I think when the wins come can also be a factor. If they come at the very end, kind of like they did when we played Army in the bowl game, that's another thing. But even though 6-6 is 4 straight mediocre years, I think Shane Lyons is in too deep with him. It's almost like they're a pair, and maybe on President Gee to make the decision if Shane Lyons wants to go down with that ship.
Yeah, and to be quite frank, I think that the most positive part to 6-6 is you might get JT Daniels back. The guy left high school a year early. I know he's been in college for a while, but he's still a young senior. He's got 1 more year of eligibility left. He came here with the intentions of going to the NFL. He has looked great.
So good.
But realistically, we have won our games through run play. And, our running backs have kind of stolen the show. People aren't talking as much about JT Daniels as they are talking about CJ Donaldson.
Agreed.
And newcomer of the week, that's not JT Daniels. He's played good. He's probably won us games, but CJ Donaldson's been the talk of the town, not JT Daniels. And so I think that when I'm looking at this 6-6, is that to a point where JT Daniels looks at it and says, I can stay for another year. I can keep Bryce Ford Wheaton. I can keep Caden Prather. I can keep every single one of my other wide receivers. I can keep my whole entire offensive line. I've got a great freshman running back that has now established himself that is probably going to come into the Big 12 next year looking like I don't know what. I'm not going to say a long shot of Heisman, but the guy's putting up unreal numbers. It's nutty. It's stupid. Maybe people adjust, but he's not even in running back shape yet.
Not yet.
And, I'm definitely being a Mountaineer fan by even saying that word in the season that we're having. But CJ Donaldson is that kind of dude. And it's wild to watch. And so when I'm looking at 6-6, all I can think about is the fact that we might get JT Daniels back. And I think that 2 years with this team that we have, on the defensive side, you're losing Ajayi, you're using Wesley McCormick. Yeah, Dante. I'm not as concerned about losing Dante. I love Dante. He's going to be a loss. But Sean Martin has looked good, man. He's looked good at that.
Agreed. And we've got a really good 23 class and some dogs that are coming in that I think could play early. Justin Benton is somebody I think can make an impact like Mesidor early on next year. Guy, former IMG Academy guy. And then also another offensive guy that JT might have is Rodney Gallagher, who I think everybody's really excited about. Tell me he can't make an impact as a freshman.
And he's not replacing Bryce Ford Wheaton. He's not replacing Caden Prather. He's replacing Reese Smith. That's the position he is going to play. That's exactly the position he's going to play. And that's the one wide receiver spot that, Sam James and Reese Smith have not really shown up this year. And so you think about placing, an elite freshman in there. Oh, God, And on the defensive side, I've been really high on Asani Redwood. They brought him up a few times. We haven't seen him yet. But I think Asani Redwood's going to be a name to know here soon because I think that he's really going to fill in that role when he kind of gets his chance. So 6-6. If you convince JT Daniels to stay by keeping Neil Brown, I would take it 10 times out of 10.
I think a lot of it depends with him, too. What are the scouts telling him? If the scouts tell JT, listen, we just need you to stay healthy for 1 year, he'll leave. If they need to see him stay healthy for more than 1 year, so that they can go to their head coach and say, listen, he was injured for 2, but he stayed healthy for 2 after that, or at least relatively healthy.
He's taking
talent is not the issue with him. If he has a pro day, anybody that's there is going to be wowed, and he's going to be in the conversation if he's healthy for a day 1 or day 2 pick. I don't think anybody can deny that.
Absolutely. And I had brought this up to the guys the other day is, if any NFL scout is watching his post-game interviews, watching his interviews in the midweek, I don't know how you're not salivating at the kid. I don't know how you're not, because he just, not only does he know what's going on, but he's got the talent to back it up.
His Wonderlic test is going to be high. He's going to score high on it. Sometimes I just look at him and it just blows my mind. You have a man crush.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's that. It's just like I look at him and I'm like, how is this guy an elite quarterback? But he is.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't look like it physically, does he?
I need him to grow out a mustache. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of what's doing it for me. Is I feel like he's just like such a quirky dude that I need him to have something like identifyingly quirky about him because he just looks a little doofy. And so I think that a mustache would just really
like Boob Stash 2.0.
Yeah, give me something funky. I'm just gonna get a little fun one in here. Look forward to love having you in here. Awesome game for the Mountaineers. It's a win. We'll take them. Honestly, Neil Brown is one of the best recruiting coaches that West Virginia University has ever had and has had in forever. Sorry. For sure. Dan Holgerson didn't recruit.
No.
He doesn't know what that word means. He would have to look it up in the dictionary.
Terrell Chestnut called me out for it because somebody asked me, why is Neil Brown in the situation he's in? They were asking about his first couple of years. And I said, well, honestly, he had one of the worst talent handoffs in the history of our program. Not the worst, but one of the worst. And I think I said it was because of Dana Holgerson's win now mentality and how he recruited out of the portal a lot and the junior college ranks. And, man, some of his players came to his defense after me, Terrell Chestnut being one of them, telling me to lay off Dana. But, he didn't recruit the state of West Virginia. Ryan Switzer goes right by. And others, and really good players. Doug Nestor being another one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that's one of those things, no offense to Terrell Chestnut, great player, absolutely iconic in WVU in his own right. But you can't look at me and tell me that Dana held the same love for my state that I come from. I believe that you will also come from, that Neil Brown does. And it was evident, for Dana Holgerson, it was football. And I get that because we're a football school. We love football. I can't say we're a football school. We have a great basketball program, but we're very invested in our football. And so, I won't fault Dana Holgerson for taking that approach. He won games with it. But when it comes down to it, we love to see the culture that Neil Brown's building here and the growth mentality he has. And Dana Holgerson came out and said that he could never recruit kids to West Virginia University. That's not my words. That's not your words. That's not the words of Joe Schmo down the street. That is words of Dana Holgerson. And to have a man come in here and have some of the best recruiting classes in WVU history just shows that was wrong. And I don't know how you argue that. I just don't see it.
Couldn't agree more with you. You nailed it. And you called it culture. And every kid that, I've talked to and that I've watched as far as interviews go, that's the word that gets thrown up the most is the culture and family-like atmosphere that Neil Brown has incorporated. And it's one of the main reasons he's being held on to.
Yeah. And I mean, look at one of his first, he admitted that his first recruiting class didn't really hit. His second recruiting class has not played out all that well. His third recruiting class, the class of 2022, had a pick 6 tonight and has been leading our team in rushing yards.
If he keeps on that trajectory, be good things ahead.
You tell me what else we're looking for in the class of 2023. You know what I mean? Just to give people an idea, of where we're at in Neil Brown's recruitings. We got another person in here. We got Charlotte fan DH, go Hokies, choke. I just had to write down that, just to let you know.
You say chokies?
Yeah, they didn't choke tonight, so they didn't even hardly show up.
We'll let you know when we might be bringing the Black Diamond Trophy back towards Virginia.
Yeah, you're gonna have to hold that. You're gonna have to hold that L for quite a while.
Yeah.
Tony Kidd back in here. Kansas is starting to look like an A-OK loss. I had brought this up the other day when I think that it was me, Steven, and Jordan, or it might have just been me and Steven. At what point in time do we look at Kansas as like an 8-4 Kansas team, an acceptable loss? If Kansas turns around and starts losing at the end of the season, but it's stopped people early. Just something to think about. I know you never want to look at it and try to make excuses for losses, but it's just something I've been thinking about.
Well, let's not get it twisted, though. We were the better football team.
Absolutely.
And you can't tell me we weren't the better football team. We were Virginia Tech against Kansas. What Virginia Tech was against us tonight, we were against Kansas. We made the same untimely kind of defensive penalties and plays. And those, if you can't tell, those things lose you ball games.
Mm-hmm. Hey, and it might have honestly exposed us to some of the stuff that we needed to fix now because, and credit to Neil Brown, he's made it a habit of not fixing, not taking the chance and, letting a guy like Jacoby Spells play. I was a bit worried because we still saw a lot of McCormick, but maybe they're seeing something I wasn't seeing. But
he's been so disappointing to me. He had one of the highest PFF grades of any FCS corner in the country coming out. It's James Madison, and I know that's FCS, but it has shown to translate before. He had a high 80s Pro Football Focus grade coming out of James Madison for a 12-game season. I don't know what it hasn't clicked with him yet.
Yeah, and I think that's just one of those things, Charles Woods didn't really come on until later on in the season, so maybe you just see him get better. But at this point in time, I'm going to be screaming for Jacoby Spells every chance I get. I would rather take my licks with Jacoby Spells, and that's where I leave it. And I'm not going to come off of that opinion ever.
Yeah.
We got Cruz in here. What's up, Cruz? Glad to see.
What's up, Cruz?
Oh, yeah. What's up, peeps? Hope you enjoyed the game. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the game. Hope it was fun. He said a couple more down here. He said I saw some really pissed off Hokie fans tonight, and it was glorious. Yeah, I'm sure it was fun. Fun down there in Blacksburg, real close to the hometown for us down there, about a 45-minute drive from us. So definitely a fun one to get out to. I wish I could have gone myself, but I just couldn't work it out with work. And I'm eyeing some other games on in the season up in Morgantown. So Go ahead and bring up another one. He said two of the best players on the field tonight were true freshmen. Absolutely. Can't argue that. But we're getting a little later on here in this, so I want to go ahead and knock out a little bit of let me get your we're going to do offensive, defensive players of the game. So we'll break them down individually tonight. So who was your offensive player of the game tonight? I think you got a couple to pick from, but who was your offensive player of the game tonight? Paul.
My offensive player of the game tonight was the offensive line. I give it to all of them. You know, they dominated this game from get-go. Very few tackles for loss, very few penalties. One really bad untimely penalty. But overall, we really dominated this game against what a lot of people would say is a really good Power 5 defense, especially along the defensive line. They were ranked in the top 15 in several categories, top 10 several categories coming into this. Whatever you want to say about the competition is fine, but they were still a 2-1 team with a really highly ranked defense, and we absolutely dominated them.
Yeah, I really don't know how you argue with that. The offensive line was probably the best unit on the field tonight. But here on the Country Roads webcast, we like to keep it different. We like to, give alternating in there. I'm going to give mine to Michael Laughlin. I was so impressed with him tonight. He made some big catches. He did drop a touchdown, but he turned around and had a very key block on Justin Johnson's touchdown to kind of help put the game out of reach. And so I'm going to give Michael Laughlin. I think that he deserves it. I think that you see a notable difference when that man is on the field as opposed to when he is not on the field. And so he's right there with the offensive line. Their blocking is better with him on the field. So I'm going to give my offensive player of the game there to Michael Laughlin. Flip it around on the defensive side. I'll go first on defense, and I'll let you go first on offense.
I know you're first.
I'm going to go – okay, I won't go Jacoby Spells because, I don't think that he was the best player on the defense today. I think that was Justin Jefferson. I think that he just looks like an animal, and I think that he's so impactful. And I think that I think Virginia Tech could not get anything going at the run today like they wanted to because of Jordan Jefferson.
It's funny because we had another Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I said Justin,
and I get him confused all the time. And that's funny because they both played the same position. But I'll go with Luke Pogue, and I was disappointed in him because he lined up in a couple spots tonight that weren't the right spots. But man, the improvement from a couple weeks ago to now has been really good. He had the best hit of the night. His fits were good, and their running attack was null and void tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, Luke Pogue definitely had probably his best game so far in a Mountaineer uniform. You saw him making more plays, really stepping up in there, making some sticks. And being kind of what we expected him to be finally seeing it show up, and to hope that that's, not a one-time thing, but a progression that we're going to continue to see as we go forward. From that, we're going to switch over to wrap it up here. We're going to go with our play of the game. You want to hit it with your first play of the game, or do you want me to take it?
Go ahead.
All right, my play of the game, and I think that it was a very pivotal moment in the game, and that's going to be with a 4th-and-1 stop. I think that the game was definitely kind of up in the air. Virginia Tech decides to go forward on 4th-and-1. They send Grant Wells up the center, and who but Jordan Jefferson steps up in there. Defense just crashes down on it. Horrible decision, but that really seemed to get some energy in us. The defense that we've been criticizing a lot comes up big, stops them on 4th and inches, and I think that play alone really sent this into WVU's direction of us being more aggressive than Virginia Tech, and is my play of the game.
It's a great pick. I'm going to pick 2. I think the Sam James. You hear a lot about the middle 8. I don't know if you saw that tweet. The middle 8 football games, the last 4 minutes of the second quarter, the first 4 minutes of the third quarter, the third quarter. That was my play of the game. Just a team play. The win in the first 4 of the second, or the last 4 of the fourth quarter, first 4 of the third quarter. It's not like a tongue twister. It was really a team win for us. The Sam James touchdown, along with Jacoby Spells pick, all great plays. There's so many I could pick from. So just a great team win.
Absolutely. So it was definitely, helped out a little bit by penalties, in my opinion. I'll stick to that.
Absolutely.
We definitely didn't do anything to hurt ourselves this game. And I think that's definitely a positive sign going forward.
Absolutely.
So,
we did less to hurt ourselves anyway.
yeah. So that being said, it's now early Friday morning. We've been going on for a little while. It's been a great show, Paul. Love having you on. I kind of forgot to hit people with if you're still tuned in, those final 30 people, hit that like button, that subscribe button. I should have said that a little earlier on, but it was too much fun to talk about the win. But give us a like on the Country Roads webcast. Go give Mountaineer Paul follow on his YouTube channel, right? You got a YouTube now.
Yeah, and also and I don't have any followers yet, but it's something I'm trying to build.
Hey, yeah, definitely, guys. Go give him a subscribe. Tune into it. Any Mountaineer content is great. Mountaineer content in our eyes. Give a follow and subscribe, like to the Voice of College Football here, the main channel and the West Virginia channel. Thank you, Mark Rogers, as always, for letting us come on here and talk some Mountaineer football. And that being said, any other final thoughts that you want to get out there, Paul, in this last win? West Virginia 33, Virginia Tech 10, walking out of Blacksburg with a win.
Well, I'm going to say for our friend Cruz, New Country Roads.
Yeah, Q Country Roads. And that being said, as always, I'm your host, Bradley Brown. And for Paul and myself, let's go Mountaineers.
Mountaineers.